The Vanguard loomed large as the shuttle approached its docking bay. Captain Marik sat in silence, the weight of the last hour pressing heavily on her shoulders. The faint hum of the shuttle's engines was the only sound that filled the cabin, though her thoughts raced like a storm. The explosion of the ancient structure, the Guardian's cryptic warnings, and the raw, palpable power that had been unleashed, none of it made sense, and yet she knew they were now entangled in something far beyond their original mission. Docking sequence initiated, Orlis said, her voice subdued. The usual banter that colored their interactions was absent, replaced by a tension neither of them could shake. The shuttle settled into the docking bay with a soft thud, and the doors hissed open. Marik rose to her feet, her expression grim. Everyone to the debriefing room. Now. No one argued. The weight of what they had encountered, something that had nearly killed them all, hung in the air like a specter. They moved quickly through the docking bay, silent but for the sound of boots echoing against the metallic floor. Inside the debriefing room, Commander Voss was already waiting, standing rigidly by the large tactical display. His expression, normally neutral, was tight with concern. He had been monitoring the entire situation from the Vanguard and was clearly waiting for answers. "Report, Captain," Voss said, the slight quirk in his eyebrow betraying his inner apprehension. Marik took a seat at the head of the table, folding her arms across her chest. She quickly relayed the events that had unfolded inside the nebula, the discovery of the alien structure, the mysterious Guardian, and the near-catastrophic destruction they had narrowly escaped. An ancient structure, a dimensional gateway, and a Guardian claiming to be some kind of keeper of the beyond. Voss asked, his brows knitting. "That's unprecedented." "Unprecedented is putting it lightly," Orlis muttered from her seat, massaging her temples. "That place wasn't just a relic, it was alive, sentient almost, and if the Guardian was telling the truth, that gateway wasn't just a transport system or an artifact, it was sealing something dangerous away. "And we nearly broke that seal," Marik said quietly. "I ordered the overload to stop the gateway from opening, but I don't think we fully succeeded. The Guardian said something was awakening." Voss tapped a series of commands into the console, bringing up the sensor data from their approach to the nebula. The energy readings were off the charts even before the structure destabilized. But now, he trailed off as new data appeared on the screen. Marik's eyes narrowed. "What is that?" Voss tapped the screen, enhancing the image. "We've been monitoring the nebula since your return. The energy levels are fluctuating wildly, more than before. And this," he pointed to a new series of pulses spreading outward from the nebula's center, "is the aftershock of whatever was inside that structure. It's spreading." Orlis leaned in, her brow furrowed. "Those pulses, they're reaching beyond the nebula. Could they be some kind of signal?" "It's possible," Voss said, his voice tight with unease. "We're still trying to analyze the pattern, but these aren't random. Someone is transmitting a signal, and it's getting stronger." Marik felt a cold knot form in her stomach. If the gateway wasn't fully sealed, it could be sending out a distress call, or worse, it's a message to whatever lies beyond it. Orlis's eyes widened. If it's calling something through, we need to figure out what, and fast. Voss tapped more commands into the console, his jaw set. "We've sent out probes to monitor the pulses and track their trajectory, but we're dealing with an unknown energy source. We don't know what these signals might trigger." Marik stood up, pacing the length of the room. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. They were posed to be explorers, not protectors of an ancient cosmic seal, and now they were at the center of something that could affect the entire galaxy. "We need answers," Marik said, her voice firm. "I want the science team working round the clock to analyze the data from the nebula, and I need the crew on high alert. Whatever this is, we're not prepared for it, and we can't afford to be caught off guard. We also need to figure out if there are more of these structures," Orlis added. "If this one was a seal, there could be others like it, holding back whatever it is we're dealing with." "Agreed," Marik said. "We'll need to expand our scans beyond the immediate vicinity. If this gateway is one part of a larger system, we need to know where the other pieces are before anything else is triggered." Voss nodded. "I'll relay the orders. But Captain, if I may," he hesitated, choosing his next words carefully. If we're dealing with something interdimensional, something that's not from our space-time, we might be facing a threat we're not equipped to handle. We need to consider contacting the Alliance. Marik sighed, running a hand through her hair. She had considered that as well, but the idea of bringing this to the Alliance made her uneasy. They were already on the edge of political and military tensions. News of an existential threat could cause panic. Not yet, she said firmly. We don't have enough information, and we don't want to set off a chain of events we can't control. We'll keep this internal for now. If things escalate, we'll make the call. Voss didn't look pleased, but he nodded. Understood. Captain, Orlis said quietly, looking up from her tablet. There's one more thing. Before the Guardian, before it tried to stop us, it said something about the Beyond claiming us. I think it wasn't just a warning. I think it was a prophecy. Marik frowned. What do you mean? I'm not sure, but what if the signal isn't just calling something here? Orlis hesitated. What if it's trying to pull us into whatever is beyond that gateway? A force like this, it might not just be reaching out, it could be dragging something in. A heavy silence settled over the room. Marik's heart pounded. The implications were staggering. If the structure's collapse had set off a chain reaction, they might not be able to contain it. And if they were being drawn into some kind of otherworldly force, there was no telling what would happen next. We'll find out soon enough, Marik said grimly, turning to face the display. Whatever this is, it's not done with us yet. Hours later, Marik found herself back on the bridge, staring out at the nebula. The faint pulses of light were still visible, rippling through the clouds, each one carrying the strange signal deeper into space. The Vanguard's crew worked quietly, their voices hushed as they monitored the expanding disturbance. Any new developments? Marik asked as she approached Voss's station. The pulses are increasing in frequency, Voss replied, his eyes scanning the data. And I'm picking up faint echoes from further out. It's as if the signal is bouncing off something. Something or someone? Marik asked, leaning over his shoulder. It's hard to say, Voss admitted, but whatever it's reaching, it's getting closer. Marik's stomach twisted. She had a sinking feeling that they were running out of time. Suddenly, Lenka's voice rang out from the communications station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's faint, but I think it's coming from inside the nebula. Marik's heart skipped a beat. Put it through. The bridge went silent as a crackling, distorted voice filled the air. It was barely intelligible, broken by bursts of static, but the words were unmistakable. They are coming. We can't hold the gate. Too late. Marik's blood ran cold. The voice was alien, unfamiliar, but the message was clear. Who is this? She demanded, her voice sharp. Iden, tough-eye yourself. There was a long pause, the static deepening, and then the voice came again, this time clearer, as though whatever force was blocking the transmission had lessened. You must stop it before they reach your world. The seal is broken. The Beyond will consume you. And then the transmission cut off, leaving only silence. Marik stared at the view screen, her mind racing. Someone, something, inside the nebula was trying to warn them. And whoever it was, they were out of time. Commander Voss, she said quietly, her voice tense with urgency. Prepare the ship. We're going back in. Voss turned to her, his eyes widening in disbelief. Captain, you can't be serious. We barely made it out of there alive. We don't have a choice, Marik replied, her tone resolute. If this thing breaks through, it won't just be us in danger. It'll be the entire galaxy. Voss hesitated, then nodded. Aye, Captain. As the Vanguard's engines powered up, Marik felt the weight of the decision settling over her. The stakes had never been higher. Whatever lay beyond that gateway, they would have to face it head-on. Because now, it wasn't just about discovery, it was about survival. And the Beyond was coming for them all. The Vanguard plunged forward, cutting through the swirling gases of the nebula with a determination that mirrored Captain Marik's own. The pulses of energy were growing stronger, more insistent, as if the nebula itself was alive, calling out to something far beyond their comprehension. Marik stood at the helm, her jaw set, eyes fixed on the flickering view ahead. The warnings from the distorted transmission echoed in her mind, haunting her every thought. You must stop it before they reach your world. Whoever, or whatever, had sent that transmission was desperate. and they were running out of time. "Status report," Marik ordered, her voice steady despite the tension coiled in her chest. "We're nearing the epicenter of the pulses, Captain," Voss replied from his station, his fingers moving rapidly across his console. "Energy levels are spiking again. Whatever's causing this, it's intensifying." "Any signs of the structure?" Marik asked. "Not yet," Voss said, "but we're picking up remnants of the power signatures from earlier. If it wasn't completely destroyed, we might be able to trace it." Marik nodded, her eyes narrowing as she stared out at the roiling clouds of the nebula. Somewhere within, the answers lay waiting, but they had already learned how dangerous those answers could be. "Orlis," Marik called out, turning to the science station. "What's your assessment of the pulses? Are they transmitting out, or are they part of a larger system?" Orlis glanced up from her readings, her brow furrowed. "It's hard to say for sure, but it feels like both. The energy waves are behaving like signals, but they're also interacting with the environment. It's almost as if the nebula itself is amplifying them, like a massive antenna." "That would explain why the pulses are spreading beyond the nebula," Voss added. "If this place is some kind of amplifier, then whatever is on the other side of that gateway is going to hear it loud and clear." "And we're about to knock on their door," Marik muttered, gripping the railing tightly. Just then, Lenka's voice broke through the tense atmosphere. "Captain, we're getting another signal. It's faint, but it's similar to the one we received before." "Put it on speakers," Marik ordered, her heart racing. The bridge fell silent as the distorted voice crackled through the comms once more, this time clearer but still tinged with static. "You must stop it. Too late. They are awakening." Marik exchanged a quick glance with Voss. "Can we pinpoint the source?" Lenka tapped at her console, her eyes focused. "It's coming from deeper within the nebula, close to where the energy pulses are strongest." "Could be survivors," Orlis said, her voice hopeful, "or someone trying to help." "Or it's a trap," Voss countered, his expression grim. "Whoever, or whatever, is sending that signal might not be on our side." "We won't know until we get there," Marik said, her tone resolute. "Bring us in closer. Full scans. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The ship's engines roared to life as the Vanguard pushed deeper into the nebula. The energy pulses grew stronger, causing the ship's shields to flare as they absorbed the impact. The crew worked in tense silence, their focus absolute as they braced for whatever lay ahead. "Captain," Voss said suddenly, his voice tense. "I've got something. The sensors are picking up a structure." Marik's heart skipped a beat. On-screen, the view screen flickered, and there, emerging from the swirling chaos of the nebula, was a massive object, a dark, jagged form that floated in the void like a fortress. It wasn't the same structure they had encountered before, but its design was eerily similar. Alien, ancient, and radiating with power. "Another seal," Orlis whispered, her voice filled with awe. "There's more than one." Marik's stomach twisted. If this was another gateway, then the situation was far worse than she had imagined. The pulses weren't just signals, they were activations. And if this structure was responding to the same force as the last one, they were in grave danger. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple energy spikes from the structure," Voss said, his hands moving quickly over his controls. "It's powering up. Something inside is waking up." "We need to disable it before it fully activates," Marik said, her voice firm. "Prepare an away team. We're going down there." Voss turned to her, his expression conflicted. "Captain, are you sure that's wise? We barely made it out of the last one alive." "We don't have a choice," Marik replied. "If we let this thing activate, it could open another gateway. And I don't think we'll survive whatever comes through this time." Voss hesitated, then nodded. "Understood. I'll assemble the team." Minutes later, Marik stood in the shuttle bay, adjusting her gear as the away team gathered around her. Voss, Orlis, and 2 security officers were outfitted with the latest tech, their expressions grim but determined. "Remember," Marik said, her voice carrying authority, "we're going in to disable whatever's powering that structure. We don't know what we'll find, but we need to be prepared for anything. If we encounter hostile forces, we retreat. Our priority is shutting down the gateway." Orlis nodded, her hand resting on her scanning equipment. "We're ready, Captain." The shuttle bay doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing the swirling mists of the nebula beyond. Marik took a deep breath, steadying herself for what was to come. "Let's move out," she ordered, stepping into the shuttle. The shuttle launched from the Vanguard and sped toward the alien structure, its engines cutting through the thick clouds of gas and energy. Marik's heart pounded in her chest, a mixture of adrenaline and fear surging through her veins. This wasn't just about exploration anymore. This was about survival. As they neared the structure, the same eerie glow they had seen before flickered across its surface, casting long shadows over the jagged edges of the alien metal. It felt alive, watching, waiting. "Docking bay up ahead," Voss said, guiding the shuttle toward an opening in the side of the structure. The shuttle slipped through the docking bay doors and touched down with a soft thud. The moment the engines powered down, Marik felt the weight of the place press down on her. The air was thick, charged with energy that made her skin prickle. The doors slid open, and the team stepped out onto the cold, metallic floor. The docking bay was nearly identical to the one they had seen in the previous structure, dimly lit with strange glyphs carved into the walls, their shapes shifting in the flickering light. "This place feels wrong," Orlis muttered, scanning the area with her equipment. "The energy levels are off the charts. It's like the whole structure is vibrating." "Stay alert," Marik said, her voice low. "We don't know what we're dealing with." They moved cautiously through the corridors, the walls humming with the same rhythmic pulse they had felt in the first structure. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, as if the structure itself was alive, waiting for them. After what felt like hours, they reached a large, circular chamber, similar to the one they had seen before. In the center of the room stood a towering obelisk, glowing with a dark, ethereal light. The energy pulses emanated from the obelisk, spreading outward in waves. "There it is," Orlis whispered. "That's the source." "We need to shut it down," Marik said, her voice tight. "Orlis, can you interface with it?" Orlis approached the obelisk cautiously, her scanner beeping wildly as she neared the structure. "It's similar to the last one, but different. I'll need time to figure out how to disable it." "Make it fast," Marik said, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of movement. Suddenly, the obelisk pulsed brighter, and a low, resonant hum led the chamber. Marik's heart skipped a beat as she turned to Voss. "What's happening?" Voss checked his readings, his face pale. "The gateway. It's starting to open." Marik's blood ran cold. They were too late. The air around them shimmered, and a dark, swirling vortex began to form at the base of the obelisk. The energy in the room intensified, crackling with power as the vortex grew larger, spinning faster and faster. "We need to get out of here," Marik shouted, grabbing Orlis by the arm. "Now!" But before they could move, the vortex exploded outward, and a deafening roar filled the chamber. The air rippled with energy, and Marik felt a powerful force slam into her, knocking her off her feet. The last thing she saw before everything went black was the vortex swallowing them whole.